A total of 3,459 persons are expected to cast their ballots in all 11 constituencies in the Upper West region during the special voting exercise. The special voting started this morning, and majority of the personnel expected to cast their ballots are security personnel. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that the exercise is generally peaceful, except for the Wa Central Circuit Court 1A polling station, which suffered some challenges with the biometric verification device.
The Upper West region is having 11 constituencies, and an election is taking place in all 11 constituencies, and each of them is having one polling center, except the Wa Central constituency, where we're having 2 polling centers. And so the whole of the Upper West region, a total of 3,459 persons are expected to cast their ballots between 7 a.m. and up to 5 p.m. But in this particular constituency, the Wa Central constituency, we are expecting at least 867 people to come to cast their ballot. We have been speaking to the people who came here to cast their ballot. One of the persons who cast his ballot, and we managed to speak to him, was the Upper West Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Ali Osman Adamu. He told us about the process so far.
As we have arranged, we are starting at 7 o'clock, and we started exactly 7 o'clock. And we have put all measures in place to ensure that the voting goes on smoothly. We have the social distancing also in place. We mark the floor with white paint for people to stand at distance apart, so that the election they will not be crowded. Yeah, so in that order, you pick your ballot paper for presidential, cast your vote, and then go in for the parliamentary, also cast your vote, and then you exit the polling station.
We haven't seen some of the political parties having representation here, except the 2 major political parties, the NDC and the NPP. So we also managed to speak to their agents right here.
So far, it's cool. Just that when we started, the first person to vote, after the verification, instead of recording 1, it recorded 4. So they have to change that machine for a different one. But since they have turned to the second machine, everything is normal for now.
So far, so good. Since it's still early days of the day, and I believe the process is cool, and we pray that the process should continue this way till the end of the process.
On the issue of the first biometric verification device that was faulty, this is what the presiding officer for Circuit Court 1A, Dr. Joseph K. Wolfan, has to say.
The first machine that was changed, they had to take them for formatting. So they formatted, but when the first person came and then he was verified, we realized that apart from 1, it indicated 3. So that was what we detected, and then we tried to use the second one, which is now going on smoothly.
Over 90% of the people who are expected to cast their ballot here, right here, are security personnel. And the officers told us that they are not left security to chance here. And so I can see that there are several security men right here at the polling station.
Over 90% of the voters here are security, yet we still have a security personnel purposely meant for the station. That is her duty, to assist me check whatever that is supposed to be done.
One thing significant to note here is the presence of COVID-19 ambassadors. The prospective voters first wash their hands, after which their body temperature is checked using the thermometer gun, and after that they go through the rest of the process. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam.
Now, the special voting exercise underway in all 275 constituencies across the country has been generally smooth, with little or no hitches at all. JoyNews' checks at some centers reveal that, with the exception of some isolated cases, polls opened early at a good number of the centers. At a polling center in the northern region, however, some voters without face masks were turned away. Here's one such victim speaking to Martina Bugri.
I just saw that you've been turned away. What's the problem?
Yes, actually I was posted to vote here, but then I came around with that notice. So I've been asked to go and get one.
Now, legal practitioner Samson Ladiayenini, however, says there's no law barring people from exercising their franchise without face masks. He described the incident as constitutionally wrong, while urging the EC or the state to make face masks available for persons who arrive at the centers without one, rather than denying them the opportunity to vote.
Okay, so let's start from this point. The first point to start with is not our views or our opinions about who can vote and what can happen to them if they try to vote. But it is what the Constitution, the supreme law of this country, that guides all of us, and which all of us, including the Electoral Commission, are bound. The constitutional provision in Article 42 is that once you are a Ghanaian, you are 18 years of age or above, and you are of sound mind, you have the right to vote, and you are entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of voting. If a person gets to the polling station today on the special voting, it would mean that that person is presumed to have been registered in accordance with law to be able to vote. That person would have been registered to vote. Now, having been registered to vote, it simply means that that person's name has been entered in the register of voters. If your person's name has been entered into the register of voters, the Public Elections Regulation 2020, CI 124, which guides the conduct of the election, says that when we go to vote, among the list that we will find at the polling station will be a special voters list. A special voters list. So once your name is on the special voters list for today, you are entitled to exercise your right to vote. And that entitlement cannot be taken away from you, except there is a law which has been so made and which is not deemed to be inconsistent with the Constitution. Now, let me give you an example before I come to the question of the matter specific, so that we have a fuller understanding. The law that regulates how we go about voting, which is CI 127, says in Regulation 29 that you must report to the polling station at 7 a.m. or any time between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. But if you get to the polling station after 5 p.m., you will not be allowed to vote. In fact, the law uses the word shall. You shall be disallowed from voting. What it means, therefore, is that whilst you have the constitutional right to vote, and you have been so registered to vote, and your name is in the voters' register, you must still comply with the subsidiary law on how to go about voting. So if you went to the polling station before 7 a.m., you cannot say anybody should help you to vote before 7 a.m. But if you went to the polling station after 5 p.m., you have lost that opportunity to vote, even though the Constitution says you are entitled to vote. And that right, nobody can take it away from you.
Now, there are also cases of some voters who did not find their names on the register. Let's start off from the OT region, where my colleague Peter Senu joins us live from. Peter, what can you report?
Well, Daniel, so far the special voting has started smoothly this morning as at 7 a.m. A total of 2,795 persons drawn from the various security forces and other special duty service providers on election day are expected to cast their vote here in the Oti region. But currently, I'm in the Akan constituency, where 185 persons are expected to cast their ballots. So far, 104 have cast their ballots here in the Akan constituency. So far, the process is very smooth and everything is going on well. COVID-19 protocols, we must also say, are being strictly adhered to here in the Akan constituency. The regional EC boss, Mr. Nuhu, has also been moving around and he has been sharing his satisfaction about the process so far, adding that so far no machine got frozen, everything is working well, and he says they are expecting to provide a world-class election services on December 7th. And so he is very expectant that come December 7th, everything would work well and then inure to the benefit of Ghanaians as they move to the polls to elect various parliamentary candidates and presidents who would govern the country for the next 4 years. Daniel.
Peter, let's get some clarity on this. Is it the case that some persons did not find their names on the voter register?
Well, so far, where I am, everything is moving. Everyone that comes here finds the name on the voters register and votes. If there are other developments that I am not aware of, I cannot independently verify that. But so far, where I am, everything is moving on smoothly, Daniel.
Peter Senu, thank you very much for joining us. Now, in the Kwesimintim constituency, correspondent in Athalia Kwanza reports that 413 people are expected to vote under the special voting exercise. She spoke to the NDC's parliamentary candidate for the area, lawyer Fifi Bachman, who expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the poll so far.
Yes. Yes. So, sir, what are your observations for the special voting today?
Oh, I must say that so far so good. In fact, we have had many of those who registered to vote, today come and cast their votes. The EC, everything is, in order. I mean, protocols are being observed. The EC was here at 7 o'clock exactly, and things have gone, very well. So we anticipate that by close of day, we would have, not less than 90% of those who registered cast their vote today.
Okay, but sir, we understand that the Kwesimintim constituency is a stronghold for the MPP. So how confident are you of winning this election?
Thank you. Was the stronghold of MPP? You can't say was the stronghold of MPP. And now I believe the good people of Kwesimintim constituency who do not have any good thing to show for that loyalty to the NPP have decided that it is not about party colors, it is about personality. It is about somebody who can stand and get something for them. So now they are not voting based on party lines, they are voting based on constituencies development lines. The job for the youth, development for the community, whatever thing that would help the community achieve greatness is what the good people of Kwesimintim constituency are looking for, but not the normal, this place is for MPP, this place is for MPP. No, they are looking at personality.
Okay, so
Natalia joins us via telephone with more. Natalia, what more have you gathered?
Yes, Daniel, so far the voting process has been smooth in Takoradi constituency, Kwesimintim, Prisia, Honey Valley, among other places in the western region. There has been no cause for any alarm from where I've been observing the process. Just that the Western Regional Minister has also signed a warning to persons and group of people who are planning to cause mayhem on 7th of December. All the candidates I have spoken to are all of the view that they expect that the 7th December election should be fair, free, and calm like it has been today. Majority of people have voted. When you go to Prisia, Huni Valley, in Takoradi constituency, we have about 200 people vote, and the total number is 803.
Right. Right, and Natalia, now earlier you were saying a warning has been issued. What form was this in, and what reason does the regional minister have to think that some people may want to foment trouble?
Well, Daniel, he didn't state a reason for his statement, but according to him, we have seen elections over the years, and we've seen how some of it has turned out and how people have come to various polling stations to cause trouble one way or the other. So for him, he said it verbally in an interview that as the head of the Regional Security Task Force, RESEC is prepared to meet everyone or any group heads on if there are any plans. So if there is any plan like that by any resident or a group of people, they should start aborting it now before the day, because the security services are ready to meet anyone or any group, irrespective of your political affiliation.
Thank you very much, Nathalia Kwanza, for joining us now. Nathalia earlier spoke to the NPP candidate for the Kwesimintim constituency. Let's take a listen.
At police plantation. So far, it's calm here. I think maybe because it's a police station, so the needed security has been provided. And we believe that the same calmness characterizes the main election on the 7th. I want to reassure everybody in the Western region that we provide enough fair, forceful security to make sure that the elections are free and fair and peaceful. And I'm also using this opportunity to warn any troublemaker to know that if they try, they'll be the first casualty. So we are telling everybody, come and vote, go home. In the evening, you can come back and observe the counting so that there's peace in the whole of Western region. Because Western region is Ghana's bedrock of economic activity. We will not allow anybody to misbehave here. We are sending that signal straight to everybody to understand that if there's any disturbances at any police station caused by anybody, the person who caused that disturbance at that police station will have the same disturbance in his house. In his house, not outside his house. So we are telling everybody that nobody should cause trouble in the Western region. They should allow the EC to do their work and do it fairly, the administration of the world and Ghanaians. And therefore, I want to give that assurance to the people of Western region that as the regional Security Council chairman, I want to assure them that we have enough men on the ground to protect everybody, to peacefully go about his duty on the 7th of December. But I know that God being a helper and God having this battle, I know everything will be smooth for us as well.
Are you sure of it?
Let's go to the Volta region now, and Ivy Setoji is joining us with the latest updates. Ivy, tell us about what you have observed. Right, Ivy Setoji will join us shortly. So far, we've been to the Upper West region, we've been to the OT region and to the Western region, where it's been generally reported that the special voting is being carried out smoothly. Remember, 109,577 persons are casting their ballots today. And we will bring you more stories on the special voting later in the bulletin. But in the meantime, ranking member for the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, James Agalga, who is also the Member of Parliament for Busa North, is calling for the arrest and prosecution of persons involved in the assault on a senior non-commissioned officer in Tema last week. He says the minority suspects the men involved in the attack belong to the same group involved in the attacks that occurred at the recent Ayawaso West Wogon by-election, and if care is not taken, they could visit mayhem on innocent citizens in the lead-up to the election. Now, there have been media reports on this week detailing that incident, but let's take a listen to James Agalga, who will tell you more about this.
We are reliably informed that the warrant officer class 1, Mashoud Salia, was driving in a saloon car from the Tema area towards Michel Camp, where he is a physical instructor with the 1B and 1st Battalion of Infantry. Whilst on his way, after negotiating the turn at the Ashaman roundabout, we are informed that 4 vehicles which were blaring their sirens drove into the packed traffic and sought to maneuver their way through. The soldier, in an attempt to give way to the oncoming blaring vehicles, decided to pull aside, but the traffic, we are told, was so thick to the extent that he just couldn't do otherwise but to continue driving in the lane. All of a sudden, the occupants of the 4 vehicles crossed the soldier in question, pulled out their guns, pointed same at him, dragged him out of his car and beat him up mercilessly. This incident happened in the full glare of the public. We are again informed that after the men suspected to be operatives of the national security outfit beat the soldier to pulp, handcuffed him, and drove to the Michel camp, where they then handed him over to the commander of the 1B and 1 Lieutenant Colonel Nyante. Warrant Officer Class 1 Mashoud Salia, I've tried to make contact with him to no avail, but I've spoken to people who are connected with him, and they have actually confirmed that the media publications are indeed true. Look, at the moment, our armed forces feels disrespected. This cannot happen to a serving soldier in uniform. The man was uniformed. The minority in parliament is very shocked and worried with the brazen nature of the attack that was unleashed by these men suspected to be coming from the national security outfit. Unfortunately, long after the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election debacle, which witnessed the invasion and attacks unleashed on innocent citizens by people who were dressed in brown uniforms unknown to any of our security agencies, these same men in brown khaki uniforms continue to rear their ugly heads, and this time around the attack has been unleashed on a uniformed serving soldier. It's very shocking. The brazen nature of attack gives us some sense that in the lead up to the election, there is the real likelihood that these elements would be unleashed to cause mayhem on the electorate. That for us is very worrying. And so we would call on the authorities, the minister responsible for national security, to immediately bring to book those individuals who wore brown uniforms on that occasion and attacked the warrant officer class 1, Mashoud Salia, without any provocation. We are reliably informed that the warrant officer class 1, Mashoud Salia, was driving in a saloon car from the Tema area towards Michel Camp, where he is a physical instructor.
You're live on Joy News today. Let's go back to the special voting now. Ernest Menu is joining us from La Dade Kotopong. And Ernest, we understand the polls have been peaceful and orderly in a general sense. Is that the picture in La Dade Kotopong?
Yes, so La Dade Kotopong has been peaceful so far, but it is the largest constituency I've visited so far. Earlier I was at Odododiodo, then to Korle Klote, and this place just in front of the Trade Fair Center. This center has 6 polling stations, and it is because of the numbers. Over 3,000 special voters are expected to cast their ballots here. And Daniel, you can imagine it is so because we have the barracks nearby. We have also the police camp also nearby. And so a lot of the top police officers, military officers, fire service, all of them have come here to register, to vote because they have their names in this place. However, there have been a few incidents of police officers coming here and not finding their names. Earlier, I spoke to 3 fire service officers who said they didn't find their name. The EC district officer here, Mr. Frimpong, who will be speaking to shortly, did help them to find where their names are. In fact, he indicated that the administration of the fire service actually did not provide enough information on their, the ID cards, the numbers and all of that, and they failed to update the list. That is how come a lot of them do not find their names on the list here. However, the process has been smooth so far. I have just spotted the NDC parliamentary candidate, now Odole Sowa, here. The former MP as well is also here. We're yet to see the NPP candidate, Gerald Odonko, who unseated Vincent Odete Sowa. And so that is the situation here. The EC director is here, Mr. Frimpong. We'll get an update for him because the numbers are so huge, and I'm wondering how the people are able to identify where or which particular polling station they are expected to cast their ballots. He says they have devised a means. They are doing this alphabetically. He will join us in a moment just to explain to us how exactly they have done this. And so that is the picture right here at the Trade Fair Center, La Dade Kotopong. Mr. Frimpong joins me. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here. You're live on Joy News. We have 6 polling stations, yes, from A to E, F. Is it? F. Yes. And so how are the people able to identify which particular polling station they have their names at?
We have arranged the names according to the surnames alphabetically. And so if you are A, let's say the first person on our list is Sonan. A, S. So, and then it goes up to M, Amano. But Amano, we have, the B also start with Amano, but the same names, the Christian names are different. Okay. So we have Amano, and then it goes up to Esuman. Okay. So
you are doing it alphabetically. But how are the people able to know if the A list is here, B list is there?
We have pasted these at the top of the canopies. Okay. And then we also have queue controllers. So if you come, you'll be met by a queue controller who will inspect your card and direct you to where you are supposed to be, the queue that you are supposed to.
The number is quite huge here, over 3,000.
3,749.
3,749. How many have cast their ballot so far?
So far, as of 12:20, we have 2,101. Okay. I can't tell for now, but okay, as of 12:20, 2,101.
2,001. That is quite a significant figure when you look at the total. Yes. So just in case there is a problem for those who cannot find their names, how do you resolve that?
The problem might be that when they brought the list, the ID numbers are supposed to have 10 digits. You realize some have 8, some have 9. So we forwarded those people with such a challenge.
My colleague Ernest Menu there speaking to an issue official as the Dade Kotopon constituency. Let's stay in the Greater Accra region and take you rather to Ningo Pram Pram, where Manuel Kranting is standing by with Sam George, the sitting member of Parliament. Manuel, what have you been gathering?
Well, yeah, so I've just moved a bit away from the main polling center, which is the Pram Pram Methodist Primary School, just about a few meters from the Pram Pram District Police Headquarters. I just caught up with the incumbent Member of Parliament, the Honorable Sam George, who has been monitoring the process. And I just want to pick his own observation. So far, 957 people are casting their ballot within your constituency. You won by 10,000 votes in 2016. What does the dynamic, in the 2020 elections, put you on the edge a bit?
Well, a very good afternoon to your viewers. Not in the list. We won by almost 11,000 votes, and we've set a target to establish a gap this time, increase that from 11,000 to 20,000. That's the gap, because 11,000 was the gap between myself and the NPP. So we're looking to do it between in excess of 20,000. We have an operation gap 20,000 that we want to do, and we've set a target of 50,000 votes, fiscal votes for President Mahama and for myself. So we're excited. We've added a bit over 30,000 votes to our register. We know the work that went into getting the people to register. And so we're confident. We're quite confident that this election will see the cementing of a solid NDC majority in this constituency.
We're talking about that additional 30,000 voters who were added on in the new register. Well, that is enough to flip the tables. Well, I've spoken to the NPP representatives who say that, well, you won by almost 11,000, yes, but 30,000 is a number enough to be able to close that gap and then kick you out of Parliament. That is their commitment. What's your response to that?
By this time next week, we'll see who is on the beat. We'll see who is on top of his beat and who's on top of his job. I am telling you that, yes, we were consciously aware of the fact that they bussed people from outside the constituency into the constituency to register, but that doesn't change the fact that majority and a large chunk of the people who registered to vote in this constituency reside in this constituency, and they'll make the choice. I am extremely confident that a week by now, you'll be calling me the MP-elect again for my second term in Parliament.
Well, let's stay on that, because we know that in your primaries, you escaped, being dethroned by the skin of your teeth, by seven votes. And that, for a lot of the political watchers, for instance, is an indication of, if you like, a disapproval from within the ranks of the NDC itself. If your party itself almost kicked you out, what's a fair comment to make? What do you think is a larger representation of sentiments of the people in the constituency?
The dynamics of the primaries and the dynamics of the general election are completely different. We went into a primaries that had 820 people voting. Yes, I won by 7 votes, but anybody who understood the dynamics of that election, where I was being contested by my own constituency chairman, and the kinds of machinations that had gone on from within the party and even from outside of the party, those are not the same dynamics at play when it comes to the general population. Those who were here on election day and drove through Pram Pram and Ningo saw the euphoria in town that greeted my victory in the primaries. It tells you that the people themselves were excited. I mean, a primaries election at times can be influenced by several factors, several factors, including monetary. And so that is not a true reflection of when you have a general election where, an election where 820 people.
And that's my colleague Manuel Kranting speaking to Sam George, Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. You're live on JoyNews today with me, Daniel Daze. Coming up in business, ECOWAS urged to harmonize protocols with those of member states for effective collaboration. Stay tuned as Daryl Kwao brings us those details in a few minutes.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Calls have intensified for the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to harmonize protocols with those of member states. This has become necessary as member countries continue to identify challenges in the effective implementation of most protocols. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Charles Oredu, says the ECOWAS Parliament must be charged to consider local laws in promulgating regional ones. He spoke at a regional sensitization workshop on the ECOWAS protocols and conventions, from where Prince Appiah filed this report.
Lack of cohesion between the ECOWAS protocols and that of member states is often fingered as a major cause of impasse between local retail businesses and their foreign counterparts. Ashanti Regional Chair of Ghana Union of Traders Association, Anthony Opong, is worried the situation has dragged on for too long.
I was looking at the situation before even they go to amend the law and state that any the West African neighbor can go to any country and get established. Here is a case that we have an enacted law that states that we can do business wherever we find ourselves, but there's a national law that states that nobody should be allowed to enter into the retail. It becomes a problem. The heads of state must sit down and make sure they align the laws with the protocols.
Stakeholders acknowledge low access to information about the protocols. Head of International Relations and Corporations at the Ghana Immigration Service, Superintendent Simon Asari, says public education on the protocols must be intensified.
The situation can be addressed by member states taking it upon themselves to educate their nationals, to trickle down to the ordinary citizens of ECOWAS member states to understand that we are heading towards one community, one family, and that is what we are working at as per our ECOWAS protocols on free movement of persons, goods and services.
Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integrations, Charles Oredu, wants ECOWAS Parliament to take up the charge to address the gap.
Of course, there are some bottlenecks, like we've been seeing, recently, of Nigeria closing its borders and all that. But what I say to people who raise this issue is that if you look at even the EU, there are still issues, discussions. When the Irish, for example, decide to close their border, I think that we have what we call the ECOWAS Parliament. ECOWAS Parliament is made up of MPs from all, ECOWAS countries. In Ghana, we have a representation at the ECOWAS Parliament made up of both majority and minority sides. They meet. So the essence is to have them have them, discuss these pertinent issues with their colleagues from the other African countries.
The ministry is therefore holding a workshop to help improve the knowledge and understanding of ECOWAS protocols and conventions among key state and non-state actors to effectively contribute to its reforms and implementation. Prince Appiah reporting.
Now, the inability of medium to large-scale businesses to afford credit at a lower rate will deny many Ghanaian businesses the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. According to former president of the Association of Ghana Industries, James Asare, this will be a key factor in the implementation of the trade deal. He said other African nations have support mechanisms for their industries and businesses through the application of loan schemes at very low rate, a situation he fears may put Ghanaian businesses out of competition. He has been speaking to Joy Business.
What we need now is to look at, for example, cost of credit. I was just saying that if you look at the policy rate, which was quite recently announced by the governor, which is 14.5%. Now, since 2017, it has dropped, from about 25.5% to the present 14.5%. But you don't see corresponding drop in policy, in interest rate or cost of credit. So if you have about 10 or 11 percentage point drop, in policy rate since 2017 till now. Now, why is it that we still have high cost of credit? Probably...
You still think it's a challenge?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, because at the end of the day, if you have a country or if you have a business which is borrowing at single digit, now how are you going to compete with such businesses? If you are taking credit at probably 23, 25%,
So it's a big challenge. Now, beyond the cost of credit, we are also talking about the tenor of credit. Now, in our market, you see that it is very difficult to really attract medium to long-term credit. 5 years and beyond. And hence, for example, in manufacturing, in industry, if you are not getting long-term, medium to long-term credit, then it is very difficult for you to retool and expand, because you wouldn't use short-term credit, which is, for working capital, to do expansion or retooling. So once we are not getting cheaper credit, once we are not getting long-term credit, with what we refer to as project credit, then it becomes a challenge.
All right, that's it for business. We've got a full bulletin coming up at the top of the hour. Up next, sports with Oreku Ampofu.
Let's come to the Ghana Premier League now, where Asante Kotoko has officially written to the Ghana Football Association for a request for a change in their home venue. Now, due to the ongoing works at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, the Porcupine Warriors chose the Accra Sports Stadium ahead of the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League season. Now, Communications Director of Kotoko, Moses Entry Benefo, joins us live via phone. And it's a pleasure to have you here, Moses. First question to you, why has the club decided to use the Aliu Mahama Stadium in Tamale as a home venue after just 2 games at the Accra Sports Stadium?
Thanks for the opportunity, Oreku. First of all, in choosing the venues for this year's Premier League, we chose the Ohenijan Sports Stadium as our first venue, and then Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium as our second venue. And if we look at the congestion and the pressure on the Accra facility, we thought it wise at this point in time to move from the Accra Sports Stadium to the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium. We are aware that Legon City, they play their home game there, Accra Great Olympics, Inter Alliance, Heart of Oak, and Kotoko as well. And all these activities will put an undue pressure on the facility at the Accra Sports Stadium. So we thought it wise to move to the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium, where we have some teeming fans there, and then they have been deprived of the activities of the club because there's no premiership action that goes on around that part of the country. So we've decided to move to that part of the country for people over there to have a remarkable improvement in the quality of life of what is happening in our footballing sectors. More importantly, our FA presidents have come out with the motto that's igniting passions and creating wealth for all. The passions are ignited, the wealth is created. But in our considered opinion, we feel that that passion and then the wealth created are all centralized in Accra. So we want to have the opportunity for the people within up north. We also have benefits from the wealth created within football, which is why we are moving there. And the president has also come out with the cliche that to bring back the love. Yes, the love is now back. But Kotoko, we are amplifying on that slogan by spreading the love across the length and breadth of the country.
Okay, all right, thank you very much, Moses. We'll come back to you much later when we find out more development and what the FA have to also do with your letter. And he is the communications director at Asante Kotoko. We'll be doing much more of this story on our subsequent bulletins when Sports Today comes your way at 4:30 p.m. But that's the sport for now. My name is Oreku Ampofu.